What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's the Game Week 10 preview. Lots of stuff to go through today. Looking at potentially a Pukki downgrade for some people, maybe instead of going for an upgrade. Man United fixture turn as well. Captaincy, obviously, for Game Week 10, looking at who the best option might be, and a few other bits as well. Just before we jump into that, I would like to say that this video is kindly sponsored by OneFootball, a great app for FPL managers. If you've not already downloaded it, it's completely free. You can get it on the iOS or the App Store on Android, or you can click the link in the description below. That'll take you straight to it. And for FPL managers, it's got everything you want. Normal team news, lineups, and most importantly, live notifications of who scored or assisted in all the matches for the Premier League. You can set up to follow any team you want. So if you want to download that, like I said, completely free. Links below, search for it on the App Store and let me know how you get on with it. So first up, I'm looking at potentially downgrading Pukki instead of going for someone like Jimenez, who would be around the same price, Wilson or Vardy, who'd all be upgrades as well. So a lot of people are looking at going for those three players, but maybe not many people considering a downgrade, which would give you more money to upgrade elsewhere. So I've got four players that I've picked out I think are probably the better options. Mopé, Ings and Wood, definitely the best options. Wesley as well for Aston Villa. There's a few kind of cheaper players that I've not considered really for this. Jolinton, they've got good fixtures in Newcastle. I'm just not sure how much I trust them. Carroll's been getting minutes off the bench. Is he going to get a start sometime soon? It could possibly happen. They might play together, but that would worry me there. Calvert-Lewin, place is just not assured. King, usually he'd be up for this discussion, but he got benched in the last game. And he wasn't injured or anything like that, so that's a bit of a worry. Defoe's had his minutes managed. He had a good few minutes in the last game, but he did come off the bench. And McBurney, Sheffield United's fixtures are okay coming up over Christmas, but there's a drink driving stuff against him in the news, so we'll have to see what happens with that, whether he keeps his place and how many minutes he gets. So the four players that I'm looking at are on screen now. So Mopé at Brighton, good fixtures. Everton at home, Norwich at home next two. Man United away, which I think is tricky, and then Leicester at home. So Leicester at home maybe not great, but 3 home fixtures in the next 4 is pretty decent. After that, it does get tricky. You might want to look at moving him on. Liverpool away and Arsenal away. But after those fixtures, it is pretty good. So his run of kind of the next 8 to 10 fixtures overall is pretty decent. 12 shots in the box over the last 4 games, which is only second to Ings on this list. So that's pretty decent, and 1.94 expected goals, which is quite nice for the last 4 fixtures. Only got 1 goal as well, so probably due another one. And out of all the players on here, he's had the most goal attempts, 16. But the ones in the box are the ones we really want to concentrate on. So he's 12 over the last 4 fixtures. Trossard's not flagged anymore. Hopefully he'll be back in the Brighton team soon. I only think that's going to help Mopé as well as Brighton in general. I do think there's a lot of talk, and I may have said this myself, that Brighton have looked better, improved this season. But they've actually only won 2 matches. And they're lying 16th in the Premier League. So maybe not looking too great. But hopefully the next 2 fixtures, Everton at home, Norwich at home, are 2 games that they'd want to pinpoint for 6 points and go all out on the attack and hopefully get some goals as well. I think Everton's a bit of a tricky one because they did play well in the last game, having not played well in previous fixtures. So we'll be interested to see what happens there. But obviously it is at home. That's going to suit Brighton. And Norwich home's a good fixture as well. Ings is an interesting one. Again, Southampton's fixtures, I would say, are mixed. They're not awful, but they're not great over the next 4. Leicester at home, Man City away, Everton at home, Arsenal away. And then it's Watford at home, Norwich home. So the next 6 are actually pretty decent. I just don't like that Man City fixture in Game Week 12 or Game Week 11. But stats-wise, they're always good with Ings. 2.79 expected goals over the last 4 game weeks. I think he's scored in the last 3 or 4 games as well. Highest amount of shots in the box out of all these players. And to be fair, when he plays, you've seen it kind of throughout his career, although obviously he has had limited minutes. But when he plays, he does have good underlying stats. He does get plenty of shots away, and he does ultimately score goals. The problem with him is he's injury prone. And he's been pretty fit this season. I don't think he's missed out too many minutes. Obviously, he has missed games here or there, but not necessarily through injury. So he has come on during those games as well. So I quite like Ings. I think a lot of people would argue he's probably the best option out of this list. Just the injury proneness and Man City away after Leicester at home just puts me off a little bit. But I do think he's a good option. Chris Wood at Burnley, Chelsea at home, Sheffield United away, West Ham at home, Watford away, Palace at home, Man City at home. So again, it's a little bit mixed. Chelsea at home is not awful. Sheffield United away. Sheffield United are not conceding many goals. That's why I didn't like Aubameyang as a captain option in Game Week 9. West Ham at home is okay, and Watford away is probably okay as well. So mixed fixtures for Wood. In terms of expected goals, he's the highest on the list here, 2.9. And he's had 8 big chances over the last 4 games, which is pretty incredible. So he's getting plenty of good chances. and scoring plenty as well. So he does look like a good option. I think the fixtures are okay over the next 4. I think between him, Ings and Morpay, neither of them really have amazing fixtures over the next 4. They're kind of a mixed bag. And Chris Wood's got the best underlying stats, so he could be the one to go for. Wesley, I think you have to discount him for now. Man City away, Liverpool home, Wolves away, Newcastle at home is not great. Game week 16 really looks like the time to be piling on to West or Aston Villa players. And I think, obviously, he's got a bit of a knock. He'll probably be okay for the next game week, but you'd have to monitor that. And I think the thing with Aston Villa is, Ings is probably the best attacker, Wood arguably the best attacker for Burnley. Same for Morpay at Brighton until Trossard is back. But with Wesley, he's probably not the best attacker at Aston Villa. You've got Grealish, Hurahan, and McGinn all looking pretty good. So when those fixtures turn, you're probably going to look at the midfielders instead. So I'm actually currently looking at downgrading Pukki to get some money. And one of these 3 or 4 are what I'm going to be looking at. I think I'm signing with Morpay now. I think he's a nice differential, really low ownership, 2 next good fixtures. And if he doesn't do great, I can move him on to the likes of Ings or Wood later on. So that's what I'm looking at. Let me know what you think about a downgrade. I know a lot of people are looking at keeping him Pukki at the same price like a Jimenez, or upgrading, but are you looking at a downgrade as well? So we have to talk about Man United. They've got a bit of a fixture swing going on, and hopefully a bit of confidence going throughout the squad after that Liverpool game. Yes, they didn't win the game, and yes, they didn't create too many clear-cut chances, but it was a good performance, especially when everyone kind of written them off, expected to Liverpool to win that comfortably. Yes, Salah was missing, but it was still a good performance from Man United. So next 5 fixtures are looking pretty good. Norwich away and Bournemouth away, 2 sides that have only just kept their first clean sheet. Brighton at home, Sheffield United away, and Villa at home. So a pretty nice set of 5 fixtures. Probably Sheffield United away, the toughest one there. The only worry is, especially if you're looking at attackers, is in the last 4 game weeks, they've only had 19 attempts in the box, which is the same as Wolves and only 4 more than Newcastle. So they're kind of second, third worst team in terms of attacking threat. In terms of defensive, though, they've only conceded 20 shots in the box, which is only more than Chelsea and Southampton. They're the only 2 teams that conceded less, Chelsea and Southampton. So defensively, like they've been doing for the whole season, not giving away too many chances. Obviously, mistakes like the Lallana goal will hurt, but hopefully they can cut them out against these maybe easier sides or slightly weaker sides than you'd expect than obviously the likes of Liverpool. Key questions, I suppose, are when is Pogba going to be back? We need some news on that. I think he's going to help the attack for sure. Martial is also back. He's obviously been missing for quite a few weeks. He got minutes against Liverpool. I fully expect him to come back in now. Very cheap as well, a lot of the Man United players, which we obviously remember when a few of you probably had them earlier in the season. Rashford did look better at Liverpool. I think I agree with what Gary Neville was saying, that he kind of looked knackered and just out of form before the international break, and he seems to come back a bit refreshed. It did look good against Liverpool. He's 8.4 million, so it's a tricky price point when Wilson and Vardy aren't too far off that price. Daniel James, I think, is a good option, 6.1 million. I think people will be tempted by him because he is so cheap. If you've got a free slot there and a transfer to use on the midfielder, he could be the one. The only thing is he probably does look better from the left-hand side, and if Martial's back, I could see Martial going centre, Rashford on the left, and Daniel James continuing on the right. So that would be a little bit of a worry. I think defence is where I'd be looking at. If you've got a spare defender slot, maybe you want to get rid of an Otamendi or whoever, then Maguire could be a good option. Like I said, Man United not conceding too many shots. He's having quite a few goal attempts. Obviously, if you watch Man United, they always aim for him on free kicks and corners. So he could be a good option. So I think Man United is interesting if you want to do something a bit different, if you want to get a cheap option in. Obviously, you are counting on their form going upwards because it hasn't been great recently, but the fixtures are there. They got cheap assets. It could be worth a punt. I think captaincy has definitely been tough for a lot of us in the last few weeks. Last week, I wasn't convinced by Aubameyang against Sheffield United. That came through. But Abraham obviously didn't do anything. Salah missed out. Manny got nothing. Sterling only got an assist. De Bruyne blanked as well. So it wasn't really good all round. Hopefully be better this week. Looking at the kind of the fixtures and players that we picked out. So again, I'm not 100% sure Aubameyang. I like a home fixture. It's against Crystal Palace though. I'm not sure that Arsenal will put too many goals past them. Lacazette is also back now and fit. He got some minutes against Sheffield United. So if he plays, will Aubameyang be pushed to the left? I don't necessarily see Aubameyang missing out completely, but I just don't think that Arsenal are necessarily creating enough right now, and that is a fixture that I'd want to put my captain on. So I'm counting Aubameyang out. Abraham, I think, is a good option, potentially even Mount or Hudson-Odoi, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, against Burnley away. I think Abraham in particular has scored quite a few goals already away from home. I think it's 6 in total, which is pretty decent. I just think when I look at, I like to keep things simple sometimes, and when I look at a team sheet and I'm trying to pick my captain and I see that one of them's playing Burnley away, then I'm probably going to try and find someone else instead. So I don't think Abraham's an awful option. I'm just not sure I'd want to be putting my captain on that player personally. Spurs versus Liverpool, I wouldn't be captaining any Spurs players at the moment. Liverpool I don't think are actually bad options in this game. Given the way that Spurs have been playing recently, they've had some poor results, they've not looked good defensively and in an attacking sense. So I think Liverpool can get something from this game. It's a good time to be playing a team like Spurs. Obviously, it's not usually a match that you'd expect too much from, but I think now it's okay. Mane very good at home. Hopefully Salah will be back as well. So I think it's an outside bet, and obviously those players are usually captain quite a bit, but this week they probably won't be. So if you wanted to go a bit differential, they might not be the worst options. But the standout has to be Man City. I'm recording this as the Champions League is going on. Aguero has started, so that's a bit worrying because Jesus has started a few league games now, although this is at home, so Aguero could play again. De Bruyne and Sterling also two options as well, but they've both started, so we'll have to wait and see how many minutes they get. Between those two, I've currently got it on Sterling, but I think De Bruyne has been so consistent, especially at home, that he might actually be the standout option this week. So I'm very much considering swapping. If Sterling comes off after like 60 minutes in the Champions League and De Bruyne plays the whole 90 or vice versa, then that will probably make my decision. But we'll have to see how Man City do. But I think against Aston Villa at home, that has to be the standout fixture this week. So I'll be captaining a Man City player. I think they're the best options. So just going to go through some other bits that you guys have brought up in kind of Twitter or on YouTube or that I've been thinking about. So one of them is cheaper alternatives. So I've been trying to save some money in my own team. So obviously we've already talked about the Pukki downgrade instead of an upgrade. Trent Alexander-Arnold's missing out on the Champions League game because of illness. Should be back at the weekend, but again, that's another way to save 0.3 million. You could go Trent to Robertson. I'm not saying you use massive amounts of transfers to do these moves, but if you need to get some funds, there could be a way to do it. Obviously, you're still locking in the same clean sheet, having Robertson instead of Trent, and potentially a similar amount of attacking returns. We know Trent's really good, but points-wise, they're quite close at the moment. Salah to Mane is obviously still one we've talked about quite a lot. It's only a 0.6 million saving now, but that's still a good amount of money. And actually, Mane might overtake Salah for ownership near enough soon. And then the big one is probably Mount to Hudson-Odoi. That's depending on when you bought Mount, that's probably an upwards of 0.5, 0.6 saving, which is pretty decent. And I think when you look at the last two game weeks where Hudson-Odoi has started, and then you look at the stats, and even just the eye test, I think Hudson-Odoi just looked really good. But underlying stats, he's created 8 chances versus Mount's 3. And he's also had more shots in the box than Mount as well. I just think he has looked very good. Obviously, Chelsea fans quite hyped about him. They've got a lot of expectations for him, and he looks like he could do it. Obviously, long way to go to see kind of what kind of potential he fulfills. But from an FPL perspective, he looks really good. So it is a downgrade that I've looked at making Mount to Hudson-Odoi. Not that Hudson-Odoi is a bad option, or not that Mount's a bad option, in fact. But Hudson-Odoi does look pretty good right now, and he's a bit of a sexy pick, I think. Otamendi, a lot of people worried about him. Missed the last game completely, just had a knock. But then in the Champions League, he's not started either. Pep's gone with Rodri and Fernandinho again. Now that does worry me a little bit that he didn't play in this game. I think he's going to need some minutes before he plays the next game. And Pep could have played him. Stones was on the bench too, so does he just not trust his centre-backs? It's a tricky one. And I'm not, to be honest, when we try and second-guess Pep, it never goes well. So I'm not 100% clear what's going to happen there. Can Fernandinho play 3 games in a row? That's maybe a little bit of hope we've got as Otamendi owners. But is Stones also a worry? Could he just play Stones instead of Fernandinho and just play Rodri at the centre-back? I don't really know. I've got Otamendi now. I'm going to wait and see what Pep says in the press conference. My gut instinct is to keep Otamendi, Aston Villa at home, Southampton at home, and then look to get rid, because Man City's fixtures do get a bit tricky. When they've not got Laporte at the back, maybe we're not so not so sure that they're going to get clean sheets. So Otamendi, I think I'm going to try and keep for the next 2, but if there's any indication that he's going to miss the next game, then I'll probably look to get rid of him. And then waiting on Liverpool attack. A few people asked me, should we wait on Liverpool attack if you've not already got them? I do think Spurs at home is a good enough fixture to have Liverpool players in, and Aston Villa away is decent too. Then it's Man City at home and Palace away, not so good. And then game week 14 is where it gets pretty good for Liverpool. They do have a blank in game week 18, so I think there's no massive rush to get them in this week. It is Spurs at home. That could be a tough fixture, even though it is a good time to play Spurs. And then Palace away and Man City at home in the other 2 fixtures. So I think if you've not got them, you've not got a free transfer maybe, or a player that you want to absolutely get rid of for Salah or Mane, then I think you can probably stick without them for now. But I don't think they're bad options by any means. So I think you just go with what's best for your team. If you want to get them in, great. If you don't, then the fixtures are probably there to warrant not doing it as well. So that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave it a like. Much appreciated as always. If you're new around here, make sure to hit subscribe. Hit that notification bell when you know when all the other videos are going to go live. and I will be live streaming at 9 o'clock on Thursday as well. So if you want to tune in for that, make sure you do. And leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of what I've said. Do you disagree? Are there any other questions you had? Make sure to leave a comment below. And lastly, like I said, the video is sponsored by OneFootball. If you want to download the app and try it out, it's completely free on iOS and Android devices. So you can search in your App Store, iOS Store, or just click the link in the description below and that'll let you get it as well. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Good luck in Game Week 10 and I will catch you soon.